All right. Hello, YouTube. We are live again, and I am here with a DMD warrior, cool guy, really smart guy. His name is Darren, lives in Guelph. Thank you for joining me. We're going to talk about pandemic stuff and some of the government choices they made and how to fix regular Canadians. That includes us, and how it affects people with disabilities as well. Darren, thanks for joining me. Why don't you tell people who are watching just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so I was diagnosed with DMD when I was 6. Here I am. I'm actually 41 now, which makes me
wow,
one of the old guys, right? Like us old
no
guys.
doubt.
And no, I actually grew up north in Timmins. That's where I was born, and eventually migrated down to the Guelph area, and I've been here ever since. Yeah, so you're right. Just DMD fighter, and bring the bring awareness to the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just turned 40 back in January, so we're a couple of old guys when it comes to DMD, and we're just going to try and impart our great wisdom on the world.
Yeah.
So pandemic's been going on for 2+ years now, and obviously you and I are, you know, we have a little bit extra to be concerned about when it comes to anything that could affect our breathing, and that's definitely COVID, right? So you know the I've always I've always felt it my responsibility to protect myself. I never thought like the government needs to quote unquote protect me from illnesses and stuff like that. Obviously, the government takes care of healthcare and things like that, and they help you get your shot if you want your shot. But you know, uh, you and I think have both criticized some of what the government's done with regards to mandates and shutdowns and things like that. Um, my personal feelings is I think it's a bit much, and I think I didn't ask for it. It's like there's this mentality that we have to protect anyone that's quote unquote vulnerable.
Mhm.
But I've been both of us have made it past our 40th birthday with DMD, so we're doing something right. We're we haven't let anything get us yet, and we're pretty smart about it. I've done things like if you have symptoms, you don't come into my home, regardless of who you are or whatever. As soon as you come into my home, you sanitize. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the shutdowns? And then what are your thoughts on do you want the public at large protecting you, or what steps have you taken yourself to stay safe, so to speak?
Sure. I mean, it's been hard the last 2 years, and especially thinking last year when it first started. How I'll give an example. My primary transport was through public transit, using the mobility transit, and they basically restricted the service. That the only ones that could take it is if you were going to a medical appointment, and that was it. So when it first started, I mean, I couldn't go anywhere. I was stuck, and and even this past year, like it just keeps going and going. That the restrictions are there. So I found it very difficult being a person in a wheelchair, and also I feel like in the beginning I was quite concerned because the way the media portrayed it was that this you just go outside or
Yeah,
someone even breathes on you, you're going to get COVID. And
and we didn't know, right?
yeah, we
I
didn't know
think
in
it's
the beginning
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And then but I don't know, I think as time has gone on, I feel like um it's like the media is beating, and sorry, doctors and health are beating the same drum, saying you must do this, you must do this. Now it's all about the vaccines, right? And so I don't know. I just my to protect myself, yeah, because we are immunocompromised, and I think for me it was as well limiting people who came into my place. Um, the PSWs that work with me, I mean, they immediately wash their hands and sanitize when they come in. They're wearing masks and shields, and like so in a way it's limited any sort of you know virus coming into my place. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I think there's pretty reasonable things to do, and they can be pretty effective, right? Especially if the people have zero symptoms, you're probably good to go. Yeah, so I never used public transit. I had my own vehicle, so I didn't even know like
yeah,
that. You could now all of a sudden just go to medical appointments. So if you had like a job outside your home, you couldn't get to it. Wow,
yeah.
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, jobs, I think they could, but remember, everyone sort of went, working through Zoom, so it probably would have been the same thing. But yeah, I think it was jobs and medical appointments. That was it. Yeah,
Right. So good luck on getting groceries, right? Or,
yeah,
or like they tell you get grocery delivery, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm on ODSP. I
yeah,
barely have enough money for my regular groceries.
yeah,
And then if you get grocery delivery, you'll either pay a premium on
mhm,
each grocery item,
yeah,
which is how they usually do it, or there's a delivery fee. But
mhm,
most of the time, like if you look at, say, the regular price at, let's say, a Loblaws, and a
mhm,
loaf of bread is $3, the delivery price is $4.
yeah,
And like inflation has been through the roof
yeah,
already. The cost of groceries has gone way up, and the support for people with disabilities has been utterly pathetic. Like
mhm.
ODSP has not changed in years, and you know, um, why don't you tell me what you were saying earlier about how Justin Trudeau said X amount of dollars is
Yeah.
what people need? Yeah, why don't you share that again?
Sure. Yeah. So if you remember, I think it was last April, when we were kind of in the thick of things. Maybe it was May, but I know it was last spring when Justin Trudeau basically said that $2,000 a month is what Canadians should be able to live off of in a month. Well, many people don't know, but anyone on ODSP, and I'm sure it's the same with other provincial programs, we get paid $1,169 a month to live, and that includes your rent.
Yeah,
So, like, can you imagine? I mean, for me, my situation has changed where I was able to work myself off ODSP. I now have a job, so which is good. But for a while, this is not a word of a lie. My rent was like $829. I was living off of $300 a month for food. And if I didn't have a bit of family support and friends and whatever, I'd be screwed. Like I
yeah,
would $300 to live. Like, and so that really bothered me. And I know a lot of advocacy groups kind of spoke up and said, well, why aren't disabled people getting 2,000 a month then? It should be the
yeah,
same. So
yeah. The only thing that was offered to disabled people, and this came with a huge caveat as well, was a one-time payment of $600. So tell us why that was
yeah.
not so not so great either.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it was and by the way, yeah, so they promised the money, $600 for anyone who's disabled. We didn't get that money till what, October, November? It was ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, the caveat of it was that you had to already be eligible for this disability tax credit. So if you don't know what that is, basically it helps you reduce your taxes if you're working or you have a taxable income. So basically, it was benefiting anyone that had this tax credit and not really the people who really needed it. So if you were someone on ODSP, chances are you didn't have the tax credit. So you had to go get a doctor to sign papers, charge you for it, and get it submitted just to get the $600. So it was ridiculous. Like I was thinking, why on earth couldn't they have looked and said, okay, in Ontario we have this many, hundreds of thousands of people who are disabled. Let's give them it in BC, in Alberta, and all the provinces. But no, they wouldn't. It was like either you had this certificate or you didn't get the money. So
Right.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it would have been pretty easy just to check the listed names on ODSP and similar um, projects around the or the country, and just be like, okay, these are the people that are eligible. And obviously, there could be more still that were eligible, but like it would have been a lot easier to do something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a
Uh,
it's a shame, It just they feel like they treat us like second citizens, and they really do. Like we're insignificant, and it's terrible, but that's really how it is. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And if you wanted to get CERB was still technically available for people with disabilities, but only if you had made a certain amount of
Mhm.
money the year before. So if you were under that threshold, I don't know what it was, but I think it was about $5,000 or $10,000.
Mhm.
So even if you were someone with a disability who worked, but maybe just worked part time because of your disability, you
Mhm.
made $3,000 last year. You're not eligible for the CERM. So like,
Yeah.
it was really even like I hate to say that, you know, even if you're a person with a disability who had a job who was, technically earning an income as well, like because sometimes they make decisions based off of like really your economic value, which is disgusting, right? Because the person value ha- is not tied to their economic value.
Yeah.
But like you couldn't get the serve, and like the cost for people with disabilities, like we pointed out, with the rising costs of groceries and grocery delivery, maybe transportation. Like you said, if you couldn't take public transportation, maybe you got to take a cab, and that costs way more money, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
like, the cost of living for people with disability went through the roof. And
Yeah.
like you said, you had $300 after rent. For myself, it's a slightly better situation, but I too, if I didn't have the support family members, I would not be able to, you know, live my life at the level of comfort that I do, because I'd be relegated to buying potatoes and rice for every single meal, right? And
No.
and that's a real shame. They got so many people with disabilities who they need to maintain their health and their immune system, and they can't afford fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you receive your attendant services or your support care from a organization there in Guelph. Can you speak a little bit about how that's affected you, and what some of the difficulties have been? And again, has either the provincial or federal government done anything to you know support the people who support you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so I'm under the assisted living program and it's run through Guelph Independent Living. So I live actually in a building that has attendant care right here. So one nice thing is, if you need help, you can call and there's at least someone here. But what happened over the last 2 years is that there have been shortages in staffing. And, on some bookings, when you would normally have two people, suddenly you have one. and those bookings that you need two people, suddenly it's no longer an hour, it's you have half an hour with them. So that's one thing I've noticed. A lot of different faces, meaning there's a high turnover rate, and I don't know if that has to do more with burnout or if it's just they're getting better jobs, higher paying jobs elsewhere. But that's, yeah, the one thing that I've noticed. For me personally, uh, you know, I I felt like, I wasn't affected so much. But for example, showering, suddenly go down from even having 3 showers down to 1 shower a week because they don't have enough staffing to accommodate you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's one of those things.
Yeah, I'd like to see Justin Trudeau ask to be, say, hey, Justin, instead of showering as often as you do, whether it's every day or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
just shower one out of every 3 times you actually want to
Yeah,
shower and see how he feels. See
yeah,
how long his gorgeous hair will put up with that, right? And see, what would he do? What would he
yeah,
like? He wouldn't stand for it, right? So
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
fair that a person with a disability.
Yeah. And then, the other thing too I have noticed with the PSWs I work with regularly, burnout, where, I've seen some people, they're here in my morning booking, and then they're here again in the evening. And I'm like, why are you at work again? And they're like, well, they were short, so I'm covering. And I'm thinking, like, working 11, 12 hours a day and then doing that again and again, I can just see how some of the really good workers can get burnt out or get COVID because, they get their immune system run
Yeah,
down, and then there you go. So yeah, it's not a good situation. From what I heard is that they are offering more money. Um, to the agencies, but I know someone over, like, we're in well, you're Waterloo, I'm Wellington, but anyway, they're over in Durham region, and their PSWs make an extra $10 more than the ones do in Ontario. So, or sorry, in Wellington County. So it's kind of like
right.
I I think people would rather go over to Durham and work there. So just I feel like they should make some incentive to keep the good workers.
100%, because those good workers that, like you mentioned, that are working those 11, 12, 14-hour shifts, and like I've seen it before. I used to be in a assisted living project as well, and they're the type of people that are doing it, not because they want a fat paycheck, but
Mhm.
because they know that if they don't come in, like, you're not going to get help with
Yeah.
your suffer or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
that's the reason they're doing it. They're coming in because they understand the consequences. Like, they care about the people they support.
Exactly. Yeah.
They care about their coworkers too, because they don't want their coworkers running around short like chickens with their head cut off
Mhm.
all shift, right?
Yeah.
So they come in, they work extra, and like you said, they get burnt out, they get run down. There's like little to no thanks in the way of added added pay or whatever, and they can get COVID, they get burnt out, and then what do you do? What do you do with those people who were working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, seemingly? What do you do when they're sick and they
Mhm.
need 2 weeks off? It's like, holy crap, we're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the program I'm on is direct funding. I get funds directly from the Ministry of Health and Long Term Care to hire staff, and it's they've temporarily given me an extra $3 an hour to hire staff. Even then, now,
Mhm.
I'm still paying what is probably less than the industry standard. And um, yeah, there's some benefit to doing in-home care in that you're not as exposed to many people, so you might not you're not as likely to get exposed to COVID, and you're not in a long-term care facility where you have to. work with like dozens of clients in a matter of a short time. But some of my shifts are shorter. Some of my
Mm.
shifts are like 2 hours long. It's really hard to get someone to come in for 2 hours and literally $44, right? They're like, especially when the serve was going on. Like I couldn't pay people more than what they were getting paid to sit at home. So like I think the serve was a good idea, but
Mm.
you should have been allowed to keep working and
Yeah.
get the serve. So just like people with disabilities should have been allowed to get ODSP
Mm.
and access to serve. I think
Yeah.
like would it have been horrible for the first time in the history of Canada? You know, people with disabilities actually weren't poor as hell.
Yeah.
Like, I like to call ODSP as Ontario's disabled staying poor
Yeah.
because it's like it is well below the poverty line. It's
Yeah.
like 50% below the poverty line. I think
Yeah.
they say the poverty line in Canada is like $24,000 a year,
Yeah.
and most people on ODSP get about $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like, and like you said, your rent, unless you have subsidized rent,
Yes, I was going to
like
mention that.
how
Yeah.
does that even work in most places in Ontario?
Yeah.
Most places in Ontario, the rent is $1,200.
Yeah.
So all of your money goes to rent.
Yeah.
Forget about electricity.
Yeah.
Forget about water, hydro, gas, anything like that. Forget about groceries,
Mm.
right? If you're able to pay your rent, like it's a really scary situation. And we talked a little bit about before about like the government shutting down bank accounts. Say I had made a donation to the truckers, like what would Trudeau do? Would he shut down my bank account? I would literally starve to death within 60 days without like family help, right? Like is he not aware of the consequences of some of the level of incomes of like I don't know, like what are your thoughts on that? How draconian do you think it
Yeah.
is to shut down people's bank accounts without due process?
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Here's the thing. So when the truckers' convoys started, a lot of people now they're just so, negative on it and whatever. But when it started, the biggest thing that it brought was hope. People were seeing hope and they thought it was a good thing. And then that's why they gave money to it. It wasn't like they were like, oh, we're actively funding terrorism because it's
No,
not anyway. But you're
no,
right.
I don't think that's the thought of 99.9%
No,
of the people who
no.
donate.
And you know what is interesting? Like now, somebody, 'cause you know how all the donators got doxxed.
Yeah,
All that information is on a Google map, and you can go and punch someone's name in, and you can see if your friends donated. And I'm like, that's just ridiculous. Like I went and looked on the list, and I saw some friends that I knew donated, right? And sure enough, there's all their information. And I'm like, how can that be? So yeah, I agree with it. Thankfully for these friends, the bank accounts weren't shut down, but one person like he gave $25. That's it, $25, and now he's worried that his account's going to get shut down. And like, how on earth does that work? So you're right. Anyone who's disabled or I don't know. I was thinking like single moms with
yeah,
minimum wage jobs, and now they can't even get to their bank accounts. Like it's ridiculous. It really is.
yeah. I heard of one guy in Alberta. He had his bank account shut down. Plus, he has another business, and that account was shut down too. It's
Yeah.
like you're ruining the livelihood
Hmm.
of the entire family.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems draconian, and like I understand some people disagree with the truckers
Hmm.
and their points of view, but If a government can do this,
Mhm.
to people you quote unquote don't like or don't agree with, like it's it's no guarantee it won't happen to the next time. I don't know, say another protest that you do agree, say it's
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, right? Lots of people donate to Black Lives Matter. So that's uh, another protest that uh, I I support, as long as it doesn't get violent. Unfortunately, we saw a bit of violence more in the states with the Black Lives Matter, but and I for the most part supported the truckers. I didn't support like the shutting down of the borders, right? Like
Mm.
I think you can support part of it and not part of it. I think you can have like a nuanced point of view that isn't just straight up like uh, if you're pro trucker, you're anti government, you're anti vaccine. Like
Yeah.
no one thing does not mean 10 other things, right? Like you can be pro trucker, you could be pro vaccine, you could be not racist, you could actually even be pro Trudeau and still be a trucker, because you can actually be pro Trudeau and still uh protest, because you can agree with Trudeau on 99 things,
Mhm.
disagree with him on number 100, but that's the one thing you're going to protest about. And
Yeah.
that's what's great about democracy, is that we can disagree on one thing, agree on 99, and we get to wrestle and discuss that other one. And that's what makes, Canada, Western civilization so great, is that we get to discuss it. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, Trudeau wouldn't even discuss it.
Yeah.
Calling the fringe minority and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
It
Insulting.
worries it worries me, because I don't know, man. This was a long time ago, back in the late 70s. There's a disability rights movement in the states where people with disability would like occupy government buildings and stuff like that, and they
Mm.
would do sit-ins, and that led to those protests, led to the Americans with Disabilities Act,
Mhm.
something Canada still does not have. By the way, we like to point our fingers at the people to the south of us and say how not as progressive as they are.
Mhm.
We're more progressive and they're way behind. But when it comes to disability rights, actually the U.S. is ahead of us in so many ways. But what if uh, what if next year, um, people with disabilities were to um, protest for whatever reason? For higher cost of, living,
Mhm.
supplements. Would we be deemed, terrorists?
Yeah.
And would we have our bank accounts shut down? Would we be arrested? Like,
Mhm.
I think there is a coming point for people with disabilities in Canada, because, um, quite frankly, I think people with disabilities actually had it better 10, 15 years ago. There was more funding for personal care and things like that.
Yeah.
Based on inflation, the amount of financial support we got from ODSP was way higher, because
Mhm.
cost of living has gone way up, but
Yeah.
ODSP hasn't. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I think people with disabilities are going to have to band together and protest
Yeah.
at some point, but can we do it?
Yeah, I thought about that too, because a lot of people are saying like, get the truckers out of Ottawa, especially the people that live there, and they're all for this happening. But I thought the same thing. What about, yeah, if somebody wants to do their another protest, is that going to be illegal? And like you're saying, yeah, what if in the summer, of course, because wheelchair people, we don't like to do things in the
No,
winter.
no,
But
definitely not.
yeah, once spring gets here, yeah, if we
Yeah,
want to go and protest against the low, ODSP amount, like, yeah, what are we going to be viewed in a negative light? Are we going to, be arrested? Like, what are they going to do? Put a bunch of guys in wheelchairs and in the back of cop cars? Like what? So yeah, but I agree. They may not take you away, but maybe they'll punish you by freezing your bank account or worse, stopping your benefits because you
Yeah,
protested against them. Like that's people say that will never happen. Well, look at this. We
that's
never.
what they said about this.
Yeah, exactly. So you're right. It makes you almost scared to, can you even speak up without consequences? And that's not what a free democratic country is like. I mean, we should be able to go and protest and say, obviously, if you're holding a sign, you're not a terrorist, you're not violent, you're just literally trying to let people know what's happening. And I'll mention one other thing. A lot of people probably don't realize this, but when you're on a program like ODSP, they penalize you if you get additional funds. So what we were talking about earlier, the $1,169 you get, the people that got CERB as well, they got clawbacks on their ODSP. So they might have got the $2,000 a month, but then ODSP wants all of that money back. So even then, people that went that route, they only made a few extra $100 a month, by doing that. So it's ridiculous that they just want to keep disabled people where they are. And like you're saying, Josh, like you can't, if you get, you know, God forbid if it was people were on ODSP were getting $3,000 a month for a year. Oh my gosh! Like what a horrible thing, like that we
I
get a
know,
little
right?
bit more money for once in our lives. Yeah,
Like that's gonna bankrupt the country or something,
yeah, yeah,
right? They waste tons of money on tons of other things. Somehow billions of dollars can absolutely go missing.
yeah,
How is that possible, right? But they can't find a few extra dollars to make sure people survive.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. It's
Dan, this has been a pretty good chat.
yeah,
I just want to give you the opportunity to give any final thoughts if you want. And
yeah,
then if you got like a YouTube or
yeah.
social media, why don't you promote that?
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, like so in the last 2 years, now, like I mentioned earlier, I actually got employed during COVID, and it's a job that I was able to work from home, and that sort of changed my financial situation, which is great, But one thing that I've realized is that the isolation and the loneliness for a lot of people, that either out of fear or out of not being allowed to go outside, how this has really taken a hit on mental health. And one thing I'll say in my life, when I was about 12 years old, I had a mentor in my life that really helped me with my world. Actually, believe it or not, my grade 7 teacher was in a wheelchair. At the
Hmm.
time, I was about getting into a wheelchair. So this
Right.
man really helped me, kind of get through those years and whatnot. And you know what? That's something that's really been put on my heart, that I want to help younger generation of boys with ND to get through this, because for so long, it's kind of like, who are your best friends and all that. It's like your family, and that's it. And I was thinking maybe people, have their kids want to talk to someone. So that's something that I'm venturing out with, and I actually created something, and I just called it DMD Advocate, and just kind of offering just someone to talk to that you can relate with and whatever. So that's something that I'm going to focus on this year, and hopefully get some kids that have been isolated just to talk to have a friend, maybe someone who can they can relate with. Well, yeah, so that's basically what I'm doing. I mean, I'm looking forward to the spring again, and let's just hope they don't restrict us again, because that's how it goes, right? So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So definitely share a link with me and
okay,
I'll post it in the video description so
yeah,
people who watch this video can definitely see it.
yeah,
A friend of mine's in the chat and he just said Yo, so I'm gonna say hi to Dave right now. And then Darren, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for joining me.
Okay, yeah, my pleasure. And hey, I love what you're doing. And, you're just really getting out there talking to people. And I just wish you success on your channel and that, you get further awareness out there.
I, I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, man.
Okay, bye.
All right, peace. All right, guys, that was my conversation with Darren. I think he's a really cool guy. Definitely gonna put his link in the description below, and so do check that out. Especially if you're a young dude with Duchenne muscular dystrophy and you're looking to, connect with an older guy. Um, and yeah, that would be cool, guys. If you want to support the channel here, I would appreciate that. Um, bell, notification bell, subscribe, hit like, all that good stuff. Also, channel sponsor, owlcreekcoffee.com. 10% of their proceeds go to people living with muscular dystrophy. So that's great too. All right. Thank you very much. Peace.